You're learning with 9 to 5 English. Business English for the workplace. Hi, Tim here with another 9 to 5 English lesson. In today's lesson, we're going to have a look at how to talk about your career. In your working life, you'll have lots of chances to talk about your career. It's not only a topic in job interviews, but pretty much any time we meet someone new. Everyone wants to know what you do for a living and what you've done in the past. And that's basically what a career is. All of the things you have done and now do in a particular field of work. And when you meet someone new, what's one bit of information that you're always curious about? Well, if you're like me, you want to know about the companies they've worked for. Because this is such an interesting point of conversation, you need to know how to talk about your past employers or where you have worked. One easy way is to say you were at a company. You can also say you were with a company. It doesn't matter if you use at or with, since they have the same meaning here. Another common and simple expression is just to say you worked for a company. Now, another bit of interesting information we often mention is how long we worked for a company. You can do that just by adding a time expression like for 5 years. Or you can say you spent a certain amount of time with a company. How about practicing some of this language? We're going to give you some examples. After you hear each example, try repeating it yourself. Ready? Let's give it a go.
Before coming to HP, I was at IBM for 5 years.
I used to work in sales for Massey Ferguson.
I spent 10 years with Bosch in Frankfurt.
For most of my career, I was with Rogers Cable.
All right, talking about your past employers is an important part of talking about your career. But people also want to know what type of work you've done. When I say type of work, I mean two things. First, I mean the actual kind of work you do, like graphic design or sales. So you might say, I do graphic design, or I work in sales. That's important information about a person, isn't it? But the type of work you do might also mean what field or area you work in. So, that might be finance, manufacturing, retail, government, or engineering, just to give a few examples. And when you talk about your field, you can say you have worked in an area or just you have been in an area. Of course, you can imagine how topics like this can open the door to lots more conversation. And if you're talking to someone new, that's really important. Early in the conversation, you want to find interesting topics to explore further. Now it's your turn to try using these expressions. Just like before, you'll hear some examples. After each example, you can repeat what you hear. Let's begin.
I've worked mainly in government.
I've been in sales my whole career.
I work in IT, particularly in finance and related fields.
I do a lot of graphic and web design work.
As you've heard, to talk about your type of work, you can say you have worked in or have been in a certain field, like engineering. Or you can talk about the present by saying you work in or do a kind of job. In any case, that little word in is pretty useful when you talk about your type of work. Now that we've done some practice with these useful expressions, let's hear how this all sounds in an actual conversation. Let's listen to Todd asking Steve about his career. Steve mentions his past employers and the type of work he does.
So, you said you worked in London.
Yeah, that's right. I spent 5 years with Lloyd's.
Lloyd's, huh? So, you're in finance?
No, actually. I mainly do communications and PR work.
How did that sound? As you heard, Todd asks about where Steve used to work, and he mentions he spent 5 years with Lloyd's, which is an insurance company. And when Todd asks about type of work, Steve says he does communications and PR work. Now it's your turn to practice. We'll repeat the dialogue, but this time we're going to beep out Steve's words. You will have to say those parts yourself. Remember, first, you'll say you spent 5 years with Lloyd's. Then, you'll say you do communications and PR work. Here we go.
So, you said you worked in London. Lloyd's, huh? So, you're in finance?
All right. So today, we learned how to talk about our career. That includes talking about your past employers and about the type of work you do. In our next lesson, we'll learn how to talk about your family. Until then, so long and happy learning.